So about a year ago, I decided for fun and for no reason to rank the dwarf planets, but I never thought to actually rank the main planets. I don't know what on earth I was thinking, so that's the topic of today. We won't be considering Pluto here today, only the cis-Neptunian objects that are main planets. I know it's really sad, but I would just put Pluto first anyways again, and besides, I put it in the dwarf planet ranking list anyway, so there's no point in repeating. Speaking of the rankings, please don't be mad at me if I put your favourite planet low on the list. It really is just my opinion and what I know about the complexities and the sort of features within the planet and on the planet, around in the atmosphere, all those kinds of things. I'm not a planetary scientist, I'm more on the astrophysics side, so this is mostly just my opinion, so please don't be mad at me. For our knockout round, we're going to start off with the planet that's closest to the Sun, which is Mercury. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love Mercury. It has some really unique and interesting surface features, and, you know, its temperature differences from night to day are absolutely insane. The reason I actually put it so low is because it is mostly a core, it has no magnetic field, it has no moons, and it has a generally basically non-existent or very transient atmosphere, so there's not actually much going for it in the first place. And of course, its orbit was used to show that general relativity was a better explanation of gravity than Newtonian gravity and Newtonian mechanics. If it didn't have such a wild precession, I wouldn't have had to write that 8,000 word report last February. Despite its low ranking, I do think it is still quite a nice planet, so as an absolute ranking for the planet, I'd say I'd give it 5 out of 10. 5 out of 10 Bepi Columbos. Next to go is Venus. Venus is actually sort of a simultaneously boring yet interesting planet. Its orbit is in an almost perfect circle, which makes the maths very simple and easy in some ways. It's really easy to view through a telescope, and you can actually see phases of Venus because it's in front of us, it's between us and the Sun. And, you know, in many ways it's very similar to Earth, even down to its core. Its day lasts longer than its year, it rotates in the opposite direction around the Sun compared to the rest of the planets, and its tilt is almost 180 degrees, which is quite unique. However, it's also really difficult to actually observe it beyond just its atmosphere, which has put quite a big damper on any missions to Venus, especially given that it's quite a toxic and pretty bad environment down there once you get onto the surface. It also stinks of sulfur, and it has no moons. So, all in all, I think I'd give Venus maybe 6 out of 10 Veneras. Veneras? 6 out of 10 Veneras? I don't know. The third to go is Neptune. Don't get me wrong, I love Neptune, but are the storms and winds the only thing that Neptune has going for it? Well, almost, but no. Unlike the other two, Neptune actually has quite a few moons, 16 if I remember correctly, and it has one of the most circular orbits within the solar system, which is once again quite unique and quite nice in terms of calculations. And of course, let's not forget the Great Dark Spot. I mean, a giant storm that's about 13,000 kilometers long and like 6,000 kilometers wide, that's basically 2 Earths by 1 Earth size, which is humongous, and that's pretty wild. But apart from that, we don't really have that much to say about Neptune. It's really difficult to observe it both at Neptune and from Earth as well, and it's clearly put quite a big damper on the public enthusiasm about Neptune because there's just not so many pretty pictures and stuff, you know, that circulates around. Also, it's barely visible to the naked eye, like just barely. You need extremely low light pollution, and even then it's not exactly the most mesmerizing sight. I do love Neptune though, so I think I'd give it 7 out of 10 Voyager 2s. So that's the first 3 planets gone in our knockout round. In the next round, first one to go is going to be Mars. I know Mars is a big favourite among most people, and for good reason too. Mars has seasons, ice caps, ancient tectonic plates, and potentially even signs of previous water on the planet, which is pretty amazing. But I mean, I'm just so tired of this red lump of clay, you know? I mean, how many more sample return missions do I need to hear about, and how many more do I have to write essays for to appease my lecturers? I mean, the answer is none, I've graduated, but still, you can't even enjoy most of these features as an amateur astronomer unless if you have a really high aperture magnification telescope. And I mean, I'd much rather just go to Iceland and watch the Northern Lights, it's much cheaper. Still though, I rank Mars quite highly, so I'd give it 7 out of 10 Mavens. Halfway through, and next to go is Saturn. Now, I love Saturn. It has so much complexity, so much like dimension, and a hexagonal jet stream on the North Pole. I mean, that is just so stunning. I think it's better than the rings, in my personal opinion, although you're welcome to disagree with that. I mean, what on Saturn is going on with that jet stream? I'm guessing it's probably like some self-interacting waves that are coming in at 6 directions, and then are just self-interacting to create the hexagonal jet stream, which is now basically stationary with regards to a human's lifetime. So that's pretty cool. Jet stream aside, of course, there are the very beautiful rings. We can't forget them. There are multiple, and they do vary in composition and type as well. So there's quite a nice bit of range going on with Saturn's rings, unlike most of the other planets that have rings. Another interesting fact is that I think Saturn has more moons than it knows what to do with. Last time I checked, which was a couple years ago, I saw that it had 63 moons, which I thought was large enough already, but I've recently checked again and it has 146 now. One problem with Saturn there, very similar to Venus, it's got a very thick and complex atmosphere. I mean, the atmosphere is the main part of the planet now, so it's very difficult to see what's going on within the core and what's going on beyond the top few layers as well. But apart from that, I mean, Saturn is just a gorgeous planet. I think I'd give it 9 out of 10 Cassinis from me. Finally, for our second main round, we've got Earth. I would probably rank it within the top, 2, or maybe even the top planet if it weren't for the humans that were on it. I think Earth is so stunning. It's got so much nature, life, biodiversity. It has, a really complex climate and environment. It has tectonic plates. It's got oceans and seas and so much water. I mean, it's got seasons. It's got a precession which changes the environment every few thousand years or so, or tens of thousands of years, I can't remember, but it doesn't matter. It's got so much going for it, and I think as humans we really do take what we've got for granted and how special and complex our planet is. Although in my personal opinion it is too cold right now, so that's not very nice of Earth. What unit should I rank this planet? Because we don't usually... I need an Earth observation satellite. How about SMILE? I think that one is Earth observation. Okay, I'll give it 9 out of 10 smiles. Okay, we're in the final round now, and I know you're going to be mad at me for making this one the second to top planet, but it is in fact Jupiter. I'm sorry. I found it very difficult to choose between this one and the top one, but I did have to make a choice in the end. Just like Saturn, Jupiter has a gazillion moons, but it also has a very small but noticeable ring structure. The most striking feature of the planet, however, in my opinion, is the stripes in the upper atmosphere. These are basically comprised of the lighter zones and the darker belts, which go in opposite directions. So at the borders of these zones and belts, you get quite a bit of turbulence and those little swirls and shears, which are really nice. The zones, the lighter ones, have very thin layers of ammonia ice on top of them at the very top layers, which is why we think they have such a lighter colour compared to the belts. However, the main theory surrounding why both of them have such an orangey colour is the idea that they probably have some sort of chromophore, such as hydrocarbons or something similar in structure, so that when they're exposed to UV light from the sun, they, reflect light back, but produce that really nice sort of, I guess, Christian girl full pumpkin spice latte colour. What's my grouch with this? Well, it's mainly just theory, that's the problem. I need something a little bit more concrete to be really impressed with Jupiter, Jupiter is so complex still, and we just don't know that much about it with certainty because it's so difficult to sort of figure things out. But, I guess that's why there's so much research and fun going around, surrounding Jupiter, so I'd give it 10 out of 10 JUNOs. Last to go, and my favourite planet is Uranus, coincidentally. I'm trying not to be biased here, but I really do love Uranus that much, and I don't think it gets enough love. Uranus has a really striking baby blue colour, which is caused by the very small amount of methane within the planetary atmosphere, which creates that blue light, a bit similar to how Jupiter's orangey colour is created, but with methane. It also has quite a lot of volatile compounds, so that does include methane, but also like nitrogen, ice, water ice, and carbon dioxide, that kind of stuff, compared to the regular hydrogen gas giants such as Jupiter and Saturn. And of course, it has its really unique 90-degree tilt, which plunges the front half of Uranus in a 42-year daylight in summer, and it also plunges the other half of Uranus in a 42-year nighttime and winter. I should of course mention that just like Saturn, Uranus has its own rings as well, although not as, wide and varied as Saturn. However, what I like to think is that some people, they like to deck out their wedding rings almost to the point where it's like costume jewellery and a bit tacky. That's Saturn. Uranus is more simple and sophisticated, with a nice simple band and a lovely little jewel on top, Last time I talked about Uranus, I did remark that it had 27 moons. However, now we've actually discovered another one, bringing its moon count to 28, which is awesome. And I cannot stress this enough. The funniest thing about the planet, in my opinion, is not the name, but the fact that it took 70 years to give its name. The co-discoverer of the planet, William Herschel, brother to Caroline Herschel, thought that they should call this planet George's Star, named after King George III. And nobody liked this, of course. I don't like this. This is the stupidest name I've ever come across for a planet. But it was Johann Bode that actually gave it the name Uranus, which was then later simplified to Uranus, or Uranus if you're a 12-year-old. So, of course, I'll be giving Uranus 10 out of 10 Voyager 2s. Honestly, the idea of calling it George's Star is still so hilarious to me. Oh my goodness, that was a whistle-stop tour of all the planets. Listen, if you disagree with any of my stuff, I don't blame you. It's mostly based on opinion and some of the facts I know about the planet. I'm more of an astrophysicist kind of guy. I'm not really a planetary scientist, but this is all just fun and games. Although I do respect the fact that the JWST telescope time deadline passed a couple weeks ago, and at that time, if I had made that video, this would have not been very fun for you. If you have a different way of ranking the planets, please tell me in the comments, because I have probably missed so many really cool facts about each of these planets, and it probably has, of course, skewed my ranking. I mean, of course it has. So just tell me in the comments other things you think are really cool about the planets and why you would rank them higher or lower. But, I'd love to get a conversation going about them. I really do love the planets personally. I think they're so unique, and our solar system is quite a unique system compared to other, exoplanetary systems. So, yeah, I'm talking too much. I'm gonna let you guys go, and I'll see you in the next video.